Hello, everybody, and let's continue with this series of videos. Last time I talked about the process of how I got the idea of philosophy and instancology from the point of view of the paradox. It's called a thinking slash consciousness paradox. Uh, think about this and what you will have when you after you pass this stage. It's sort of like when you overcome it, it will give you something. For me, it's on the two sides. I feel I benefited from this experience. And well, before I go on with these two sides, let me add a little bit on if my conclusion is right. First, I want to tell you that only after I reach this conclusion, my mental habit of always trying to get something to make me fall into this dilemma is over. So that's good part, right? Okay, it's like the computer, the digital thing, the binary system, either 1 or 0, no other choices. But when you're on the side of 1, you always think about the 0, or if you're on the side of 0, but always think about 1, you got a problem. You have to choose one side, no matter what, right? You cannot just stride in the middle. It won't work. Okay, it's basically like this. And also from another point of view, you should think about this. If this is not a universal, that is the absolute thing on your mind. Actually, later on, I find out that consciousness and thinking are totally different things, and they each control the other from the modern medical study of the brains. The left hemisphere, the right hemisphere, they control different functions. We'll talk about that later, but basically, I just want you to know, if you are not a medical person like me, that each side controls the other. Starting, stop, and go on and stop, alert the other side. It's funny, right? It's interesting. It's not funny, it's interesting. But that's the way it is. If you study the brain, I find out it is. Okay, so let me go back to my original topic about the two sides thing. All right, this is sort of like a shed, the water division. We said something like a big division on the two sides. From now, you go either side. All right. For me, I went to both sides, of course. But first, let's deal with one side. Okay. What are the two sides now? One is called the absolute side, the absolute. The other one is called relative side. This is the division which draw a line between two sides. Okay, for the absolute side, what did I get? What I achieved on this? And later on, many years, actually I did it. I think I got the experience when I was the second year at college, that's one of the university in China, when I was a sophomore that year. That is already, I think it's 1989. So how many years? It's a long time. For the absolute side, later on, I developed a series of concepts and ideas. And let me just give you a rough idea what they are and what I got. I just give you a sketch, and later on I'll explain in details what I mean by those things. All right? Okay. Let me draw on the board. All right. Let's regard this line as a division line between absolute and the relative. Okay? This side is the absolute. Absolute, all right? This side is the relative. All right? Okay. For this side, absolute, you can think this way. First, we got 5 categories, 5, sort of ontology, that is ontological categories, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, the 5. Can you see the 5? Well, not very clear, right? Okay, let me try something else. All right, the big 5 circle. All right. All right. These are 5 categories on the absolute side. 5 categories. And they are like, if you are familiar with Hegel's work, and you know, or Heidegger's work, you know B. It's called, in Chinese, we call it 存在, existence, or being, whatever that means, all right? Okay, I write it down, B. Okay, B. Well, of course, I expand the meaning here, not exactly the same, so don't think I just take it over and copy it. No, I don't do that. All right? Okay. Another one is this one. This one is called determinate. Determinate being. If you are familiar with Hegel's logic, you know what is determined being is. That is, it has some limitations or restrictions on that. All right? It's not as free, as pure as content lacking in being, or content very, very rare there. Here it has a lot of content. It's rich because it has restrictions. Whatever you do, it's called a determined being, or a determinate being. All right, that means it's restricted. These 2 concepts are old one, and I use them expand the meaning. If you want to know details, you can look at my book, and they are there, and they more explained about them. All right? Okay. The other 3 are brand new thing. Brand new thing. For this one, in Chinese we call it 在. That means, roughly translated into English, it's called potentiality. That is something emerging from somewhere and evolves into being, into existence. In other words, in absolutology, the idea of being here is not just something there. All right? It's a process. It comes from existing, emerging out from potentiality into existence. Then you call it a being. The idea is, instead of a reality, as philosophy tries to find for the past 2,500 years, the absolutology is looking for function. And it tells you the final reality is not something like a fixed, real there, existing there for you to grab or for you to see. No, it's not. It's a process. It's emerging from potentiality, from this function. All right? Function is everything instead of a reality, instead of fact. That's a basic idea. All right? So this one called Zai. That's a potentiality, roughly in English. Let me just add this one. Right? Okay. Another one is called Zai. The basic idea is the being for everything your brain produced, your head produced, the logical part or the consciousness part produced. So it's a summary of everything out of your head. Let me say it this way. Like mathematics, logic, language, arts, images, whatever, drawing, whatever, music, sound, symbols, everything. Whatever you can think of, even including dreams. So it's a summary of it. All right? Okay, so I don't know, I'm not sure at this stage, I haven't thought about actual translation in English, but the basic idea is this. The being of thoughts, whatever thoughts or thinking, everything included here. All right? Okay. The last one is this one, this circle. It's called the absolute. Actually, the absolute, I should not put it this way. It's everything here. It's everything. Oh, I don't want to say everything. I want to express the meaning. It is the background, the basis, the foundation of all other categories. So actually this absolute is not something. It's not something else either. It is the background, the basis for something. So if you use your logic, use your reasoning, you cannot reach here. That's a new kind of epistemology. I'll talk about that later. But now I just gave you a clue what it is. For example, you know, in ancient times when the emperor assigned Archimedes, I think it's Archimedes, to find out if the craftsman who is assigned the task of making a crown with gold, he makes up with alloy of some like aluminum or some other lead or some other metals. How he can find out? And eventually he figured out. He shouted. He shouted, "Eureka!" Right? Okay, that kind of realization or epistemology is called the new one called Wu Xing, something like a savvy or something. I don't know the exact English translation for that because it's purely out of the Oriental thing from Buddhism, from Chinese, another thinking. It's just some imagination. But here I put more things to it, and later I'll explain what it is. It's a sort of creativity. It can explain what creativity is. Logic, reasoning cannot explain creativity. Otherwise, machine will replace human being. This side related eventually to AI or computer. I'll say more later. Intuition cannot, of course, right? And experiences cannot. Logical thinking cannot. All right? Reasoning cannot. Logic cannot. It can only repeat whatever already happened. For creativity, it follows the rule of transcendental numbers. What are transcendental numbers? Pi. The root of natural numbers, like e, little e, right? Here, this one, oh, pi, right? And there's many more. The feature, the property of it, the transcendental numbers, are the laws of creativity. It can only happen once, and it will never repeat, no matter how far you go. If you don't believe it, try to calculate these. See when they repeat. But I suggest you don't waste your time because a lot of people already with a big computer, they are doing like 1,000 of hours, and that equal maybe 100 generations of human labor with hands. There's no repetition of patterns, no repeated patterns. So you just take it, whatever, here it is. All right, so the absolute side, let me go back, the absolute side, the division of that, this side has a few categories. And this one is the basis for everything. Because these are become eventually relative. It becomes something. But this one is a background. This is not something. This is not something else. Maybe it's nothing else. I don't know how to say it. Because you cannot reach it with language. Language is something. If somebody say consciousness is this or that, thousands of people are studying it. All the neuron scientists, all the medical people, the brain researchers, they are telling you, they tell you that I find out what consciousness is. It's this formula or it's that formula. I'll say they are all wrong. Because when you say is something, you mean it is something. I say it's wrong. It's absolute. Consciousness, like thinking here, are absolute. Both of them are absolute. You cannot say they are something. You cannot say that. So, this is the reasoning. By nature, by language, definition, language is something. Language has defects, as the world has defects. That is the idea of Wittgenstein. You know, he is a sort of a major person for the analytical philosophy. He's a big guy, big philosopher here. So his realization is right. You can feel it. You know it's there. It's metaphysics or ontology, the same sense. But you cannot speak of it. Because when you speak, you are destined to make yourself unclear, full of ambiguity. You cannot say what it is. So that's a problem. All right. So for this side, I just want to say this, and remember what it means. And next time I'll talk about the relative side. So I just gave you a rough idea. All right. Okay. See you, everybody.